You're listening to the Snob OS podcast, the podcast for Apple snobs. Hey, this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
And yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
And welcome to the Snob OS show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode. Before we go ahead and jump into things this week, definitely want to take a quick sec to thank you all for your continued support, for listening and watching the show. And for those of you who may be new, you can listen and or watch our show. You can also rate and review our show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. And if you want to get a little bit of extra content and get to watch the show live, you can head on over to patreon.com/snoboscast to get all of those details. On this week's show, we are going to talk about Apple's big birthday, which is actually today. We're also going to talk about Vision Pro. I know we are not huge Vision Pro fans over here, but there was a story that popped up that I was excited to cover. And also, we talked about it before, age verification that's going on in the UK is being rolled out to more countries, and each country seems to have their own thing going with that. So we'll talk a little bit more around that. And my favorite thinking partner, if that's what you want to call it, Claude, who is through Anthropic, they had a huge leak this week that was their fault. So we'll definitely jump into that. Also, in For the Culture, we're going to talk a little bit about free speech and what that actually means. And we'll do that in the context of Jaden Ivory. And following up, we're going to head on over to our hookup for our tech tip, where we are going to talk about something you can use in photos. And with that rundown and everything being said, let's go ahead and jump into the show. We're going to kick it off with the lowdown, where we talk all things Apple. Again, if you're listening live or whether you're listening on Friday, today when we record on Wednesday is April 1st. And April 1st is Apple's official birthday. And they turn 50 today. We talked about it a couple weeks ago about a bunch of different things that were going on in celebration. I think there is a concert tonight at Apple Park that's featuring Paul McCartney of the Beatles. So there's that. But what I want to do is talk about how there are so few companies like Apple that have not only shaped the mobile industry, but there's a whole culture around that. So that, think about the way we communicate, the way we create, even how we, carry ourselves. And Apple is really one of those companies. And like I said, today they turned 50. So before we look ahead, I want to take a few moments to take a look back and talk about some hits, some misses, and moments that made us feel like we are living in the future. So I have a few questions to kind of recalibrate and talk about our experience as now Apple snobs, but also people who enjoy Apple's products. So we're going to run through that, and we'll kick it off with the first thing, which I think probably makes the most sense since our show is called Snob OS. When did you realize, Brother Tech, that you were an Apple snob?
I wasn't a big Napster, LimeWire person. So I didn't have time or didn't have the interest to dig around to find the right song from all of those pirated websites, right? Not to say I'm judgy, right? I was judging people for doing it. I just didn't have the time or the motivation to do it. But when iTunes came around and that enabled you to buy songs and download them for you to have, that's when I was like, okay, Apple's doing something different. And I've been on board ever since. So I'd say when I realized that Apple was revolutionizing how we owned and listened to music, that's probably when I was like, yeah, I'm in 100%.
So I think for me, I was a Napster LimeWire user. So many viruses on the family computer, um, and on my old laptop as I got older. But I think for me, I think my first Mac laptop was the PowerBook G3. I think that was the name of it. And I had other, PCs before, and just the way that machine compared to some of the other laptops I was using, I was like, wait, this is like completely different. Like I have to like relearn, have to rewire my brain. But I was like, this is still pretty cool. But I don't think I really became an Apple snob until I got my first iPhone, which was the iPhone 3G. I think technically the iPhone 2 was the first like one that was released, but I think that was more like an iPod or something. Anyway, and I got that phone and I realized how much different it was from the other phones that I had. And I was like, oh wow, this is cool. This is this is different. And I think then once I got the iPhone 3, I think it was iPhone 3G. I think that's what it was called. I never went back to any other, major electronic device that was non-Apple after that. All the phones I had after that, all the laptops I had after that for personal use, everything was Apple after that point for me.
Right.
Next up, is there an Apple product that they killed that you're still not over?
That they killed, probably probably the time machines. Their Apple for a while made their own routers, and they made their own router slash NAS drive. I guess you could call it a NAS drive because it connected to your network, and it was specifically for backing up your Macs via the Time Machine app. So there was a Time Machine app, and then there was the actual little tall router slash time machine to where you could actually connect it to your network and then back up all your Macs to the house. I thought it was like a win-win. You can get internet access wirelessly and you can back up your Macs to it. Of course, NAS drives let you back up all kinds of stuff, right? Versus Apple's time machine, the actual machine, whether it be the long square, not the long square, but the more square one that kind of looks like a Mac Mini now, or the real tall one that looked like a tower. So when Apple killed those, I was kind of bummed out because I still don't have like a traditional NAS drive. I've got a makeshift Mac Mini that I've connected a bunch of hard drives to, and that's what I use to back up. But I still need a NAS drive. But I probably would have had one if Apple still made one.
And speaking of yesterday, which was March 31st, was World Backup Day. Little tangent. For me, I'm going to go a little bit further down the line and I'm going to talk about the product that never was, that was killed. I've never let it go. I'm sticking to it. The Air Power Mat. I think they could have made it work. I really think all the effort they initially put into Apple Intelligence, they should have put that in the Air Power Mat.
Oh, real bit. It was the Airport Extreme. I keep saying Time Machine. Wasn't a time machine is the software on the Mac
software.
To back up. The Airport Extreme was the router slash backup combo where you could back it up to. So
Okay.
I want to clarify that.
Yeah, because you're supposed to be Apple snob. You're supposed to know.
Right. I heard him saying it too. I was like, let me go ahead and put it out there real quick.
Okay. Let's talk a little Steve Jobs. Do you think there's something that Apple does today that Steve Jobs would absolutely hate?
Absolutely hate. That's a good question. I would say all these weird colors that Apple is always testing. There's no consistency. I think Steve Jobs was consistently gray. And then that was it.
Gray, black, and silver. It was very
gray and
minimalist.
silver. Yeah. They switch between whatever type of silver or what type of gray. But I think now Apple, well, I take that back because they had that. I guess it keeps in tradition because the I call them the big booty, big booty computers, had the different colors on the shell. So I guess that's in par, but I think the consistency to where they keep trying different colors. One year they'll do that weird green color, and then one year they'll do fuchsia. So maybe that I would consider that more consistency. Steve Jobs probably be looking forward to as far as colors are concerned, because even with the like space gray, I think the only one color that stayed the same is the silver color. Everything else, space black, black, midnight, royal, whatever the case may be, all these different versions of space gray. Maybe even Steve Jobs was like, hey man, cut it out. We're doing silver, we're doing gray. Maybe you can do space black or space gray. That's it. Just three colors.
Just the three. I want to say that he would probably not be very happy with some of the design changes. I I think they still Apple still, it makes sure its curves and its angles, those things are still the same. But I think just the way that some of the design looks, it's just like the feel, Apple has always had this, certain kind of quintessential Apple feel. For the most part, it's still there, but it's certain things. I don't think, especially with something like the Vision Pro, I just don't think he would like the design of that. I just think it would, especially when you have to have the battery pack. He said, can't we figure out, how to make this less, bulky?
Cumbersome.
Yeah, I just think that, things like that, it would make him itch because it doesn't kind of flow with that lean kind of aesthetic. I think to me, he'd have some issues with some of the design choices that they've made. Okay. Next one. Is there a moment where Apple made you feel like the future had arrived?
Well, I give you two. Probably with the interconnectability, like the handoff and the continuity features, to where I can answer a phone call on my Mac. I can send a text message off my iPad. I can send a text message on my phone. I can copy from my phone and then paste using my iPad or my Mac. The interconnectability of all the different devices. So I don't know if that services, but the fact that I can start something on one phone and then end it on a different device and then continue to work on another device seamlessly, I think that was probably one. And then probably the Apple Watch. When the Apple Watch hit and, it enabled you to check messages on your phone. Again, smartwatches had been out, but when Apple, they dropped their own version. I think they hit the nail on the head with the Apple Watch, making it connect, giving it all the connectability features. And when they came out with the LTE version, to where you can actually leave your phone in your car or in your house and go out, or forget that your phone is in the house or in the car, and you can still be in the grocery store, check your shopping list. You can answer phone calls and pay for stuff. I'm like, that's probably where we're going, to where devices are going to get smaller and smaller and smaller, but not sacrifice in, functionality.
And mine is definitely the Apple Watch. I remember as a very little kid watching Spectre Gadget and seeing Penny have the watch on her wrist. That was like her communication device. She kind of monitored things going on from there. And when it dropped, that's actually when they first announced it. That was like the thing that I posted on my social media, because I was like, I remember seeing this as a little kid in a cartoon and thinking, wow, that is so cool. And then to actually see it and be able to purchase the first generation of it, I was like, this is innovation. This is the future. When I was watching that as a kid, I was like, that would be cool to be able to have as a grown up. So it was definitely the Apple Watch for me. Apple Intelligence, Vision Pro, the rumored foldable iPhone. What do you think is going to define Apple's next chapter? Is it any one of those three things, or do you think it's something else? What do you think is going to set the pace for the next 50 years?
The iPhone is still going to be the iPhone. That's going to be the main driver. Apple's going to figure out how to make it smaller, how to make it lighter, how to make it thinner. We've seen a lot of movies to where, like Black Mirror and a couple other movies, to where the phone is transparent or translucent, and it'll just, we won't even think about it anymore. To just have all day, weeks long battery. It'll do all the things we need it to do. We'll dock it when we cut. And this is my dream, right? And it kind of got it with CarPlay. I go in my car, plug my phone in, or it connects to the system wirelessly, and then boom, my phone becomes the infotainment system. You know, take that same concept, take it into your house. You bring your phone into your house, you either dock it or set it on a charger. It wirelessly connects to your house. It becomes your system for your home automation, turning on and off lights. And we kind of have that with HomeKit, but you need right now with HomeKit, you need like an Apple TV or something to be like a hub. I envision a future to where we do everything on our phones. So we can't drive without docking it into the car. As soon as we come into the house, we put it on the thing, on the counter or whatever the case may be, and it connects to the house. If I want to watch a movie or something like that, everything, I'm starting it from here. I'm not using an Apple TV. I'm like on my phone. I'm gonna watch a movie, whatever, and beam it to the TV, put the phone down, and it becomes my cable box, for lack of a better term. And then for other stuff. So that's always going to be there. They're just going to figure out how to keep that the monumental device. In addition to that, maybe Apple Intelligence, because it seems like that's where everything is going. I'm 100% positive that Apple will find its way as far as Apple Intelligence or just AI in general. And then once they do, they'll be off to the races, just like any other Apple product.
I think I agree on the phone front. That is the flagship, I think, of Apple, and I don't think that's going anywhere. And I've always said, especially in the foldable phone conversation, my idea of the foldable phone is that it is actually malleable, not just hinge closed on one axis, on one angle. That's the only way for you to manipulate it. To me, foldable means in multiple axes and multiple kind of ways you can manipulate it. And that again is on the material side. But to me, it's one of those things where I always go back to the show Extant with Halle Berry. I think it was on like CBS or something. And the way they had phones, it was kind of that whole type of, it was translucent. It was very much, you can, fold it down to basically nothing and open it back up to what you need. And I think once they figure out what that looks like, and I truly hope, I know that they have to iterate through this, and they're probably going to come out with, like we talked about, I think last week was the two, iPhone Airs kind of put together. I hope they don't go that route. I hope they can go to the next phase, like after that, because that's what everyone is doing. I hope, because of kind of the boondoggle with Apple Intelligence and AI in general, they've learned the lesson of following the pack and get back to, leading the pack and not necessarily going with the version, the model of the foldable phone that we've seen from other companies. So I think that is where they can really thrive, is finding a way to transform the iPhone, because when the iPhone came out, it was the first of its kind, and then everybody else started copying it. So I'm looking forward to and hoping that the next chapter is creating this new version of iPhone that looks different from what we had for how many ever iterations and how much everybody has copied, and coming up with the way that the iPhone looks and works and how we integrate it into our daily lives is is changed and different than anything we've seen before. So I hope that's the next chapter. This Vision Pro thing, I don't know. I don't know. It's I don't know. I thought that that was going to be the next thing, but I
Well,
don't
it's
think they
got
really
time.
got there.
We need more buy-in.
Yeah,
Buy-in from broadcasters.
from
Because you just
external partners, we
yeah, you just
need
can't. You just
lots of
can't.
them.
You just can't. Connect it to a camera. On the field or on the court or on the match or on the pitch or whatever the case may be. You need buy-in from a whole broadcasting film industry that's going to then create for items like virtual reality, and companies are not really ready to bet on it yet. Everybody's shifted to Apple Intelligence, or not Apple Intelligence, AI in general, to where you need industries buy-in for virtual reality, and that's just a whole new thing, and not enough people are actually using it or demanding it for companies to do it.
Yeah. Check the time. I think we're gonna wrap it up there. Again, 50 years of Apple. I'm really excited to see what the next 50 are going to look like, what type of technology they're going to bring, and that we get to experience. We'll put a link in the show notes. I think it was Cult of Mac. They had a really great article where it went through all of the most notable announcements of Apple from 1976 all the way up to 2026. And it was pretty interesting to kind of go back and see, all the different changes and all the different products that have come from Apple throughout time. So we'll definitely drop that in the show notes so you can take a look and kind of see where Apple started and to where we are, and in hopes to where we go. Because I know on the Apple website they have a new graphic about their 50th birthday, and they kind of have this sketch like animation of some really, I think what they think are the most influential products that Apple has done. And it's just a really cool way to kind of look back and, be in the present and, look forward as well. So head on over to apple.com to be able to see that. I'm not sure how long they're going to keep it up, but it is there right now. Okay. Next up, I said, before, our show. We are Apple snobs. We love all things Apple. But one thing we haven't been able to really buy into is the Vision Pro. However, I do have to give it a little bit of props for what they are doing with NASA's Artemis II launch. I think I've said this on the show before. If I could do my career all over again, I would lean into aerospace because it would be fantastic. I think to go to space, I would still love to go there. But yeah, so NASA's Artemis II mission, it launched, if you're listening to the show live today, which is Wednesday, April 1st, or if you're listening on Sunday, they're already up there. But they launched 4 astronauts, 3 American, 1 Canadian, for a 10-day trip around the moon. And they launched it today at like 6:24. I've been kind of watching. There's this live feed on the New York Times where they're kind of keeping track of where the capsule is. So it did take off. It's out there. It's in orbit. And like I said, it's going to be there for 10 days. So it's going to do a couple test orbits around Earth for a couple days before it actually makes the journey out to the moon. And I bring up all of this because Vision Pro users will be able to see the launch in the immersive Vision Pro space. So it's being captured so that you can visualize the actual launch in kind of the Vision Pro world. This is probably one of the times when I kind of wish I had a Vision Pro, because I think it would be pretty cool to kind of experience that. And there's a film company called Cosmic Perspective, and they are the ones who are filming this filming this launch to be able to use it in Apple's immersive space. And they've done this before for other launches. They've done it in 3D, 180-degree stereoscopic film, and
Stereoscopic.
stereoscopic, thank you very much, and immersive spatial audio. So I just think that this use case for something like a Vision Pro, while it's very unique to one thing and it's not something you do every day, but in this particular instance, I would love to watch this launch in Vision Pro's immersive world.
Yeah. Again, just going back to the previous conversation about the future, right? And Vision Pro and virtual reality, it takes a lot of expensive equipment to shoot in a format that is suitable to be viewed in immersive video on a Vision Pro. The cameras are expensive, cameras are heavy, cameras are bulky. We've got directors, filmmakers shooting whole movies on an iPhone, right? I don't think they want to be like, all right, now let's go spend $200,000, or I'm just, guessing on the number, but however much it costs for this, and then have to shoot alongside of what we're doing to capture the 3D immersive format suitable for, virtual reality like the Vision Pro. Again, this story is an example of the extra steps you have to take in order to make something virtual reality friendly. And Cruise, if you've got backing, if you got the support of Apple, if you got support of NASA, if they're backing you, sure, you can go do it. But if you just Joe Blow, trying to make a movie, you're not trying to spend that much money for a 3D stereoscopic, whatever the case may be, you need in order to shoot for Vision Pro. Now, when the cameras get cheaper and they get smaller and they get more compact and they're more usable, then we'll start to see more of this content. Then virtual reality will take off. But until then, we've got to wait for events like this NASA Artemis launch in order to get something like immersive video that we could view on a Vision Pro.
Indeed. I'm ready for that because, like I said, this looks pretty cool. I'm wondering, they only talk about the launch. I'm wondering if they're going to capture anything when it comes back into orbit. But in any event, looking at some of the film and the video of the actual launch from the New York Times live feed, the images that I've seen look pretty spectacular. And it noted in the article that Artemis I launched in 2022, but it was done at night. So you really couldn't see all the pieces, but this was done during the day. So you could see, lift off. You could see the different pieces of the rocket ship of the ship that drop off as it gets to the different levels in the atmosphere. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see this in this immersive type of an environment. So kudos to the people who are creating this and doing this because it is pretty dope. All right, last up for the lowdown. Apple is continuing to roll out their age verification. We talked about it a few weeks ago, how it was being mandated by the EU. So we have it in the UK. I think it was launched last week. And now Singapore and South Korea have joined the party. So how it works. And this is the thing that I think was going to be the problem from the beginning when it comes to age verification, is that there's no consistent way to do this across the board. So I mentioned the UK, Singapore, and South Korea. For each of these places, there's a different process for verification. So for the UK, it's credit card, driver's license, or pass or credit cards, citizen card, my ID card, Totem ID, Young Scott. I'm sure those are something specific to the UK. And it says long-time account holders may be auto-verified in under 30 seconds. This is all in the UK. Some people have reported timeout issues and failures during the process. Let's head on over to Singapore. For Singapore, credit card, driver's license, national registration identity card, or FIN card, passports, debit cards, and gift cards are not accessible forms of verification. And let's round it out with South Korea. You must verify you're at least 19 years old. Most places 18. Requires name, birthday, mobile carrier information, phone number, gender, and nationality. It doesn't ask you to verify any of this with any type of identification. And for South Korea, you have to re-verify annually by law. So what happens if you don't do any of these if you're in any of those three countries? Your account is automatically treated as a minor account, which means web content will be filtered as well as communication safety features are automatically turned on. So I bring all of this up because one of my issues, like I said, was it seems like there's no standard process for this around the board. It seems like each country gets to decide what they want for their verification. And when we talked about this before, when the EU was trying to do it, that was one of our concerns is, each Apple is supposed to now create their iOS to go for each individual countries. And now we're only at 3 for their specific thing, for their specific process.
Yeah. Of course, you could see this coming.
Yeah.
Because there is no global standard as far as identification. You would think a passport is, but not all countries use passports. And then passports are different from country to country. We've got driver's licenses in the United States of America, and they are totally different as to how the DMV or the Department of Motor Vehicles or whatever you want to call it, Bureau of Motor Vehicles, we don't even call it the same thing, the building. You know what I'm saying? So it's not surprising that different countries are going to require different forms to, one, verify your age, and two, your actual age of, adulthood. In the story it says some of the countries are low as 14 years old, right? 14 in Austria, Bulgaria, China, mainland Cyprus, so on and so forth. 15 in Chechnya, France, Greece, 16 in Croatia, 18 in Brazil. So this is probably why Apple doesn't want to do it. Because you have to cater to every different country, right? Now, this is different than just changing the language on your phone. Apple can do that all day long. The phone looks the same in the United States, but if I buy it over in Japan, the words are going to be different. That's not a major hurdle for Apple. A major hurdle is trying to make sure they're in compliance with all these different governments within these different countries, which is going to be a tall order to fill.
And when they decide to change the requirements, because governments do that.
Different government comes in, they decide they want to change stuff up. So Apple's like, all right, we can only do so much. And now we're starting to see how different countries want to do things differently. And they're all looking at Apple's like, hey, you do this for our country. And Apple's like, we just don't want it. We'd rather not do it at all.
Rather not.
We'd rather not do it at all. So Apple is probably going to have to either put their foot down or make sure that whatever governments decide to do, that's within the government. And then whatever the government or state or nation, whatever they decide to do, they just plug in, or, Apple, they just do something. I'm not a techie like that, but I'm pretty sure that Apple, if I was, Tim Cook, doing this, like, all right, now we will, do your age verification. You figure out how you want to do it. And then all we're doing is just plugging it in. We're not creating special screens for your country. We're not creating special processes. You
Let
figure
your
out the process.
governmental tech
Y'all
IT
figure that
group
out.
or whatever. We can have a partnership because
Y'all figure that out.
have partnersps with different car companies for car play.
Just let us know what the API is. You plug into the API. Boom.
We connect.
Do your thing.
Boom. Done. Yeah, because and I think all of this really started with the UK, and to be gonna be honest, it's a bit selfish because all they were worried about was their country. And I guess, I'm an American. I live in America. We're a
Right.
very selfish country and think
Yeah.
everything is supposed to be specifically for us. And that's not lost on me. But the thing is, now that they mandated, I think through the DMA, Digital Markets Act, it's rolling out. And it is one of those things that they have in place. And now other countries like, well, if the UK can have it, we need to have it too, because it's all about protecting our children. And then the chaos ensues.
True. But at the same time, I can respect the UK. Like, yo, we don't want our kids turning into losers because they're trying to get on these phones and chaos ensues,
Yeah.
right? So it's our responsibility as a country to make sure our citizens are taken care of the way we feel like they should be taken care
Yeah.
of. You either play ball or you don't, right? And Apple doesn't want to doesn't want to lose the UK as a partner,
Partner.
as a customer base. So you got Apple's gonna have to
Because it's
bend the knee a
law,
little
so
bit.
they have to do it if they
Right.
sell their phone there.
Right. So I respect different countries for deciding to do that. United States, Apple is a US based country, and we can't agree on nothing.
Jack.
So we could throw shade all we want to as these different countries but at least they on the same accord.
Yeah.
We are not on the same accord at all.
And that's probably why that won't come here, because we can never. I think people forget how large the United States is, especially I think people coming from the UK is like, oh, well, we can, be in London, then we can drive over to Edinburgh or whatever the place. And it's like they don't realize the land mass and how big it is in one country, getting from one state over to the other, getting from one side of the country over to the other side of the country. That's like, 3,000-4,000 miles. So it's not, easy to just kind of come to an accord. And even if we didn't have as many people, this country we don't go there. But coming to an agreement is hard over here. And it's been shown, proven over and over again. But I guess good for them. And they got in early. So they're one of the first few. So, it's like, well, our stuff is set. We good. The rest of yous, good luck when you all come trying to clamor in. We already got our stuff, so we're good. So, just want to have that conversation because we had talked about the age verification before and what that will look like. And now we know what it looks like for these 3 countries. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the lowdown. Let's head on over into Second String, where we talk all other tech. And boy, oh boy, is this one a doozy.
I've been trying to tell you. I've been telling y'all, be careful. Y'all be trusting this AI too much. They gonna leak it.
Anthropic, which is my favorite thinking partner tool. They're basically known for, and they market themselves as a responsible, safety conscious lab. They do ethical AI like nobody else. Well, it just yesterday leaked its own source code. No, it was not a data breach from bad actors or outside forces. This happened internally. Nearly 2,000 files, 500,000 lines of code, unreleased features, internal model data, all out on GitHub for anybody who has a GitHub account to take a look and pillage around. And this isn't the first time. This is the second time in just over a year that this has happened. So, source material, the 2,000 files and 500,000 lines of code, are for Claude Code, which is their product that allows you to quote unquote vibe code or create apps, websites, tools, through prompting. Leaked for, just like I said, the second time in just over a year, and basically exposing the company's AI coding tools full architecture, unreleased features, internal performance data. I mean, basically the whole kit and caboodle. Now competitors have a detailed, unreleased view of the feature roadmap, of their operational functionality, and also the ability, because it's the source code, 500, half a million lines of code. People are able to reverse engineer this and be able to create a competing product. So the question everybody was asking, so how does something like this even happen? Well, a file used internally for debugging, go figure, was accidentally bundled into a routine update of Claude code and pushed to the public registry developers use to download and update software packages. So, in the world of software engineering, debugging is pretty much what you spend most of your time on. Writing the code is relatively, I won't say easy, but is not the hardest thing. Is when you have a problem, you have an issue, and you have to go and debug it and figure out what's going on. So this document, anybody who is in the software engineering space, they have these documents kind of stored to the side of things that they kind of need to remember and keep up with. But in this instance, it actually somehow got pushed to the main repo, and whoever did the code review, I don't know if they just didn't look at the files or not, but yeah, so it is on GitHub, and people were starring it and taking a look and getting in there and seeing all of the things. So per TechCrunch, Anthropic did issue a takedown notice, but at this point, it's all out there in the wild. It's all free. Even if you issue a takedown, people have already seen it. People probably already have a copy of it on their local drive. And I don't think this will kill Anthropic, but you've just given everybody a cheat code to one of your most popular products.
I mean, move fast and break things. This is what happens when companies are moving at the speed of light to stay ahead of the competition. According to the story that you mentioned, it was human error that bungled this. So humans are still involved, for good or for bad, I suppose. Maybe that should make me feel good that everything isn't automated, but apparently not, because humans involved, can mess up all the stuff. So you can't win for losing, right?
Right.
But this just goes to show that we've got a long way to go before AI becomes as common as, a telephone number or some other technology that we take for
email
granted,
address.
like an email address or a website or something like that. But these companies want us to believe that they're here now. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. If a company as big as Anthropic can somehow get their entire source code leaked on the regular old internet, we ain't there yet. Now you want to trust me to download it on my computer and have it work in the background while I'm doing other stuff. And y'all whole entire source code got leaked, whether it be automated or human error. I don't know, we need a little bit more time. The honeymoon ain't over yet.
Yeah.
As far as AI, trusting AI to be our daily assistant, or like you said, thinking partner, or whatever we're doing for. I just again, I keep saying it over and over and over again. Let's slowly let's make sure we've got this thing handled before we start making declarations that this is the future, right? We've got a lot of stuff to work on, so let's just take our time.
And I think what this shows is, I'm not sure, I haven't heard of Anthropic doing any layoffs. I think they're hiring people. But what this shows to me is how a lot of these companies are justifying their layoffs with saying, oh, we have AI to do it. And I've said before, you still have to have human intervention and interaction with AI. And with them trying to say we need to cut 10%, of our workforce of human capital because we have AI to do it. You still need a level of people involved. And while a human did this and it wasn't AI, it's one of those things where you think you can do more with less when you can't. You really need these people. And like I said, teeing this up is when they push their code to production, you usually have to go through the process of a pull request. And essentially, a pull request is pulling down whoever the software engineer is or developer is code to go to prepare it to go into production. You normally, I don't know how Anthropic does it. Different companies do it different ways. Sometimes you just need a single sign off. Sometimes you need multiple. It depends. But in that process, you have to have people to review this PR. So you're reviewing the code changes. You're reviewing any artifacts that are being attached. So while they want to try and blame it on this one person who, in all honesty, made a mistake by attaching the file. Whoever was reviewing this PR to approve it, they should have looked at the documents, which is what you're supposed to do in a PR. You're supposed to look at the documents to see what's attached, what artifacts are being attached. And it looks like some, not just the software engineer who made the changes, screwed the pooch, but whoever approved it did so as well because they didn't cross-check. Now the question is, are their PRs done through AI, done through automation, or do they have an actual person PR approval? Most companies, they have a person, but I don't know. Some of these big companies, and they're putting in all these automation tools, they may have an automated bot that does the PR approvals. I don't know. But in any event, there are several layers before this got to production that this file being attached should have been caught. Simple as that. Good luck to them, though. I haven't seen any changes in my Claude code thus far, but again, it just kind of happened. So I don't know.
You ain't got to worry about me because I don't use them like that. So I ain't gonna be too mad about any AI breaking down. I'm like, oh man, that's crazy.
And me, who pretty much uses Claude every day and Claude code frequently as well. But in any event, as long as I don't update anything, maybe I'm fine. Because I don't use the web version. I have the desktop app. So yeah, I don't know. I hope they figure it out. Hope they figure it out. All right, let's head on over into Further Culture to talk about what's going on around us. My gosh, what a turn of events. We're in the middle of March Madness. We're in the final four for both men's and women's. On the women's side, coming into the Elite Eight, Coach Niall Ivory, who is the head coach of the women's University of Notre Dame team that lost, like I said, in the Elite Eight. I mention this because the free speech warriors are on the prowl and are out in full force because Jaden Ivey, who is the son of Niall, I hope I'm pronouncing that, Ivy, has made some disturbing comments that has led to him being released by the Chicago Bulls. And a lot of the conversation around this has been about his comments around the LGBTQ community and the way that the NBA does Pride Month. He said some really harsh and negative things about this. And so the Bulls decided to waive him. So that's been most of the conversation around what his anti-gay comments. But what we've learned over the last couple of days is that it wasn't just these comments. These comments seem to be the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. Apparently, when he was with Detroit, he got traded to Chicago. There are already rumors of him being a locker room quote unquote preacher. Some people are calling him saying he's having a religious psychosis. Some people are saying he looks like he's having some sort of mental break. Some people are saying he is just using his free speech to express his Christian values. And like I said, the free speech warriors are out and about saying it's his right to say whatever he wants. And we've had this conversation with different people multiple times. Sure, you have the right to say what you want, but that doesn't mean you are absolved of consequences, because he said these comments in the context of the workplace. The NBA, even though it's very popular, these people make a lot of money, it still is a private business. It's been said that he were asking his co-workers, meaning other basketball players and executive staff, if they had premarital sex, if they are saved, asked the same thing of reporters. Then once he got the boot from Chicago, he was on an airplane ranting and raving about Steph Curry and LeBron James, how they're not really Christians. So just going off. And it's one of those things, like I said, it's under the guise of free speech. And then you have, some of the far extreme religious people said it's his right to say this because it's in the Bible, that you shouldn't be this thing or that thing. But I think what this says to me is it's not just about it's visual because he's a professional player, but try asking any of these questions or doing any of these things that he's done at your job and see what happens to you. This isn't him being quote unquote persecuted because of his religion. It's him being in a employment space saying some of these things.
You can't be disruptive.
Yeah.
And that was his problem. He was being disruptive. I'm pretty sure nobody has any major issues with somebody being overtly, outwardly Christian or, people have disagreements.
Right.
But respect somebody if they're devout, overtly, outwardly, devoutedly Christian. People could even tolerate you being anti-LGBTQ because we're talking about the NBA. We're talking about these macho, quote unquote, macho men, these supreme athletes, air quotes. And I'm pretty sure they have a lot of, if not worse, takes on LGBTQ community, gay community, trans community, whatever the case may be. But they're not disruptive thoughts and takes, right? A lot of these athletes, if they do have a differing point or differing stance, most of them, with the exception of this guy and old boy that had a problem with, Magic City, most people are non-disruptive when it comes to their beliefs. They believe what they believe, but they don't push it on other people. They're not
harass, because this borders harassment.
Well, it's just disruptive. If everybody in the locker room is outwardly, overtly Christian, it's not a disruption. But when you're in rooms with different people and they have different thoughts, different beliefs, different takes, different stances, what you don't want to be is a disruption to the point, which is to be a team. And if you're doing anything that's detrimental to the team,
which is why he was released,
they're going to remove you from the team
Yeah.
or the office or the group or whatever the case may be. So, I, agree with the fact that you have free speech, but at the same time, you can be persecuted for your free speech. Now, you can't be persecuted by the government, but the NBA ain't the government. And as long as you're not disruptive, you're cool. We know Steph Curry. Well, Steph Curry has told us that he's a Christian and he walks that path or whatever the case may be. I don't hear Steph Curry pushing that
on
on
anybody
people,
else.
right? I don't see that being
And
a
aggressive with it.
cause. Yeah, I don't see that being a cause of ire to his fellow teammates, because you can be who you are, but at the same time be in a room with other people.
You
And
can't force your stuff or your views on someone else
well,
in
you
this manner.
well you again,
I mean, you
you can do
can,
whatever you want
but
to
there's
do.
still like consequences to that.
Right, right. And I think that is the problem. I think people are not only agreeing with him because they agree with what he's saying, they also are so vocal because they feel like he shouldn't be persecuted because of it.
Yeah.
And those two are not one and the same. You can believe what you want to believe it over there. You know what I'm saying? As soon as you bring that to the group, and it's not
And to
unanimous.
reporters, like, bro,
I mean, look. So here's the thing, though. I know. Well, not know. It's safe to assume that there are some misogynistic
oh yeah.
players.
LGBTQ is not just the issue.
Yeah,
It's
but
not
so
the only issue in the NBA. They got beating people up,
right,
child abuse, wife abuse,
but
drugs,
even
all that.
but even with those, and this is going to kill me to say this, they're not disruptive.
Yeah.
The players go home and they do whatever they do in their home, whether it be, abuse or neglect or whatever the case may be. If you do that to another player in the locker room, that is disruptive, and that will get you outed faster than somebody who, quote unquote, beats his wife.
Yeah.
I hate to say this. This is going to sound terrible. But they beat their wives in their own homes. And I know that's
And
crazy.
and honestly, and even when it spills out into the public, because we've seen that,
Sure.
they still get a pass. So it's like,
Unfortunately, I'm not saying I agree. I'm just
Right.
saying the difference is this dude was being disruptive, and that will not fly in a locker room.
and he tried to do a comparison. So Anthony Edwards, Timberwolves, he said something was queer in an interview or in something, and he got fined. And so he tried to say, well, they didn't let Anthony Edwards go because he's their star player and because he plays
Oh,
really good.
And the dude is a
nobody-
scrub. If he was Steph Curry, we wouldn't have a problem. He can say whatever he want to say. That is the
thing
exception.
and that's the thing. He made his own point as to why.
You a scrub, bro. Shut up.
And he's injured. He's not even playing. He's injured. And the other thing he said that got people like really concerned, he called the head of player personnel and said, God healed my knee. I'm ready to play. They sent Brother Man to get an MRI. And they was like,
shred all
bruh,
up,
you
mincemeat
done for
in
the
there."
season.
Right.
Get out of here. And so it's that type of thing where now he's going on, all of these red pill
Sure.
shows,
Sure.
and people who agree with him, and he's kind of like building his coalition of people.
His next
But-
stage, he got to go to the next step, the next stage
yeah,
of his
because
career.
now he's left his job.
and there's an audience, and there are people.
And there are people who are
Yeah.
willing to get in on this.
Get in
and
where you
ride
fit
this
in,
way,
man.
Not caring what happens to him, but it goes to their cause. And I mentioned his mom being the coach of Notre Dame. He went on this rant about Catholicism not being Christianity. Now he was messing with his mama's job. Now, granted, she didn't say these things, but there are people, well, if he said it, then she must believe it too, or she must instill that. I'm like, this is a grown ass man.
But it's
Leave that lady
disruptive.
alone. But at the same time, we know how social media is. We know how people are. This could now be affecting her job.
Yeah, and it's disruptive.
Yes.
And Notre Dame may not want this disruption, so they'll get rid of her. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just saying we could see this sort of disruption leaking into other areas. And if you're going to wear the cross, if you're going to,
You're going to drag the cross.
hey man, get ready to be persecuted. Ain't that what happened to old boy? He was like, I'm gonna wear it and we're gonna get prosecuted, and that's just what it is. It's like you can't have one without
They'll
the
nail
other.
you to the cross and put you with the crown of thorns, man. So if you
And
gotta
you
be
a
ready to live
scrub,
for it,
and you a
and you
scrub,
not
man.
good.
If you don't shut up,
And you just got I think he's fairly recent trade from Detroit, and Detroit was trying to get rid of him. And so before we close this out, it was interesting that one of the players on his team said he agreed 100% with what Jaden said, and if that's the way the Bulls feel, then they should release him too. And I'm like,
look,
you
hey
really want to
man,
get in on this? Or maybe they just don't want to be on the Bulls no more. Maybe this is their way to get off the Bulls. But nobody's going to want you coming into their locker room with this
and being
stitch
disruptive.
on you.
You just can't be disruptive. Like the dude said, I feel that way too. It's like, well, that's good. Well, I
But
mean,
you didn't
we
do the same
expect-
thing bro did.
Right. So again, believe what you want, but find your people. And maybe NBA locker ain't his people.
Maybe being on these podcasts is where you're supposed to be. And yeah, but I think he's having some sort of mental challenge.
Maybe not. Maybe he's...
Well, he did say he just contemplated, killing himself with oxycodone. So, all these things kind of go together. Maybe this is just what he believes. Maybe
right,
this is just him. Maybe it's just him.
This is just his awakening, and he's realized that I ain't for everybody.
Yeah.
And when I can respect
But the thing
that.
is, he wants to be for everybody, though.
Most people do.
Yeah. I don't know, bro. He's complaining that his wife won't answer his phone calls. But she was in his Instagram live. So it's just a mess over there with whatever's going on with him. If he is having some mental health challenges, I definitely hope that he gets the help that he needs. If this is him and who he is, find a different outlet, because doing this at somebody's job or someone's private space, that's not the place to do it. Find the place where you belong. And since you don't have a job, and I doubt anyone is willing to hire you at this point, especially since you were hurt when all this happened, find your place where you can thrive. God bless. All right. Let's head into the hookup for the tech tip of the week.
All right. For this week, I always do this, and I have to use a third-party app or service to do this. But in Photos, once you take a picture, you can actually blur people's face. For example, if you've got kids or you've got a shot and you've got people in the background and you don't necessarily want to include them, or, you feel like they shouldn't be included because they didn't, permit for you to take a picture. Right. Didn't have their consent. There is a way you can blur their face in the Photos app natively without a third-party app. Basically, you do it with the cleanup option. So if you have a compatible phone that has the cleanup, which is the little eraser that you can use to erase things out of the background after you take a picture, you can use that same feature to actually blur people's face. The way you do it, of course, you open up the Photos app, open up a picture, tap edit, and then tap the little eraser cleanup. And then instead of erasing something in the background, you do the mark swipe over the person's face. The Photos app will recognize that it's somebody's face. It won't remove their face, but it'll put the little pixelated squares over their face to resemble somebody being blurred out of a picture. So that is my hookup for the week. If you want to natively blur people's faces using the Photos app, you can do so using the cleanup tool in Photos.
Very interesting, because I too normally use third-party apps for that, but now it looks like I don't have to.
Just for faces, though. If you want to blur words or whatever the case may be, you may have to use a third-party app. But if you're
Oh,
blurring,
it's just for faces.
because the Photos app recognizes that you're doing somebody's face as opposed to just a
full
random
body.
object, it'll remove the object altogether.
Oh, because that's what the
Photos-
cleanup tool does. It moves the whole thing.
Exactly. But if you do it on somebody's face, it recognizes that you're doing it over somebody's face and it'll pixelate it.
Good caveat to know. All right. With that, it's got to wrap up the show for this week. Brother Tech, where can the people find you?
Sure, you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BrothaTech.
And you can find me at my front door looking for the UPS truck because almost 6 weeks later, I still do not have my Magic City hoodie yet. And other than that, you can find me on the internet streets at Tech Savvy Diva everywhere. And you can find our show at Snubble West Cast all over the social space as well. You can also head on over to snubblewestcast.com to find out how you can connect with us, how to comment, how to share, how to support the show. You can go on over there and get all of those details. And with that, we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.